Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Thursday morning team call. Excited to be with you today. Golly, what a great call we've got lined up. I want to jump right in. I don't want to waste any time, but I do have a couple of huge announcements. And that is, you guys know that we are right now, like it's July. Okay. Fireworks are going on. Like July 4th is tomorrow. I think we're starting July 4th right now on this call because there's going to be fireworks for the next hour. It's good. This call is going to just totally change so many of the trajectory of your financial situation today. But I do want to announce that we are in July. We are coming into the Gold Standard Tour. Okay. Today, actually, to me, is a kickoff of the Gold Standard Tour with Matt Wilson and Bill Martin on as guests. Guys, the Gold Standard Tour, the Ethos Financial Gold Standard Tour in Phoenix, Arizona, it's a non-negotiable. Okay. So association is the most powerful force in the universe. Y'all understand that? Association. Here's what you've also got to understand. Why do people not make it? Is that grammatically correct? Why do people not make it? Okay, I'm not sure if that's grammatically correct. It didn't sound right, but I understand why people don't make it. I get it. I was one of those. As I think back to me starting my career, the reason people don't make it, I think, is grounded in human nature. It can be like people can look at it as it's linked to our programming. How did we grow up? How do we perceive failure? How are we at taking risk? How are we at all of those things? What's our self-image level? But I think so many times success is maybe a click higher than that. And a click higher than that is something that we all share, which is human nature. Okay, so just bear with me here for 2 minutes. Okay, we go through the process of getting our life insurance license. Do you remember the day that you pass your test? We all do, right? It's wow, what a great day. Like I didn't think I passed. Everybody's got the same story. Like I studied, I did great. I didn't think I passed, but I did pass, whatever. So we get our life insurance license and then we're ready to get started, right? Okay, well, now we've got to go through the process of submitting contracts, getting a couple of, and so it's like, okay, now we finally get to the point where we can start taking action. And then what's the pathway to success? Okay, what's the pathway to here's the pathway to success: perpetual failure. Y'all understand that? And I'm working with a couple of brand new agents right now, and it's never been more apparent to me because it's almost like every day they're asked, they're doing great, okay, but it's almost like every day they're asking me, like, is this the way it's supposed to be? Like, am I supposed to make dials and not get people at home? Am I supposed to actually get people to say, I'm not interested? Am I supposed to actually book an appointment and heaven forbid somebody not show up for it, right? Is all of this supposed to be? Yes. Yes, it's a glorious process. And here's the thing, though. We deal with close ratios in our business. And out of every 10 quality appointments, our close ratio, no matter how good we think we are or how bad we think we are, tends to be about 35%. So I will just say closing ratio on appointments set versus appointments kept virtually tends to be a little bit lower. I'm not spouting negative. I'm not casting a shadow. I'm not speaking negative over your business. I'm just saying, the powers of observation tend to be open to everybody. And I'm just sort of looking at, like, for every 10 appointments I booked in the field, I would typically do 8 of them, right? But that doesn't seem to be the case virtually. So we work in close ratios, but I get it. It's an exercise. The pathway forward is an exercise in failure, perpetual failure, like a lot of failure. And so some of the really smart people, they go, wow, this isn't working. This isn't working for me. Maybe it's the universe's way of telling me that this is not for me. Okay, so I'm not going to return John's text anymore. I'm not going to plug in anything. I'm going to let that group me thing they plug me into. Let me quickly get off of that. And so they run away. They run away. Why? Because they're bad people? No, not at all. They're running away because they're protecting themselves. They're now looking for the easier path. See, this must not be for me. Too much failure, too much is like, ooh, I don't feel like I'm doing well enough. It's been 2 weeks and I haven't written anything, whatever. So I get it. So let me just tell you, association is the most powerful force in the universe. You will become like the people you associate with. So the reason I say that Phoenix, Arizona is a non-negotiable is because in Phoenix, Arizona, you're going to get brainwashed. No, that's not true. In Phoenix, Arizona, you're going to get around people that have gone through the same exact thing that you're going through. And you're going to meet them. They're going to be people like Matthew Wilson, who you're getting ready to meet on this call. They're going to be people like Bill Martin, who most of y'all have met, right? Deanna Cooper, Tanya Hughes, people in our organization like Casey and Claudia and Lisa and so many of the top. But see, it's like you're going to meet people and they all have the same story of dream, struggle, victory. Okay. But when you start building belief in that the victory actually follows the struggle, then all of a sudden you kind of embrace the struggle a little bit easier. Not that it's ever like too easy, but it is easier because you go, okay, so what I'm actually experiencing is pretty normal. Yes, it's normal. See, that's just it. It's normal. It's very normal. You're normal. Okay. And so association levels things out and keeps people in the process of overcoming to become until like all of a sudden you're a rock star. You're a household name in Equus. You're profitable. You look in the mirror, see the boss. You now have belief in the leads that you're working. You now have kind of a comfort zone in the close ratios, and you just wake up every week and the no's don't bother you anymore because you now understand the yeses, they come from the no's, and so you don't get uptight. When you get 4, 5, 6 no's in a row, you don't get uptight. Why? Because you've developed that belief through experience that the yeses follow and that the 35% close ratio per 10 appointments is real. It's very real. So that's my promotion of why you've got to be in Phoenix. You just have to be. Not coming to Phoenix it's suicide. It really is. So maybe my guests have a comment on Phoenix as they get started this morning, but I do want to bring on Bill Martin, OG, the GOAT of all goats, Bill Martin, OG, and we've got Matthew Wilson. Matthew, you're no stranger to Cornerstone. You've been on our call before. Matter of fact, you have actually taught us Ethos before. And so welcome back. Big Cornerstone welcome to Matt Wilson. And so good morning. How are y'all doing?
Thank you.
Doing great. I wanted to just spin off of that. I'm going to throw it over to Matt in a second here. And Matt's going to be one of my key guests when we do the Phoenix, because we're going to be talking about the subject he's talking about today, which is success with the Ethos, unfinished leads. But going to what your point was about going to a meeting, to me, in the days of virtual now, a face-to-face meeting is more powerful now than it's ever been, because we just don't have that much of that anymore. And there's a different vibe going on when you're in a face-to-face situation. And I was talking to Rob and Barry about this last week, that I believe that a lot of our managers should be doing a face-to-face meeting as far as in a recruiting setting, to show the opportunity because we're doing everything virtual now. But
Mhm.
I believe that in your radius of 3 to 5 hours, that maybe once or twice a month, you should be setting up a meeting where you can meet people face to face. There's still something more powerful about a face to face sit down engagement with people than there is ever going to be in virtual. And that's why this Phoenix is even more powerful. Think if you asked all of our people that have been with us a long time, John, or been in this business a long time, it's very rare that people come back from a meeting not just inspired, right? Not felt like they didn't get something out of it. If we go back to the meeting that we had, the Greenbrier, and we think about the comments we got from everybody from that meeting and saying it was one of the most powerful meetings they'd been to. And this was that leadership meeting with about 80 of us. Um, and there's a reason for that because you just can't get what you get there on the screen here. Even though this is getting more and more comfortable with the world, there's still something much more powerful. So for a person, if there's of the group that's here, or they've got somebody that's considering, getting into our business, they need to understand how powerful that meeting is going to be for them because there's going to be things that are going to be said that you don't have time to do here, but there's also going to be those moments where you can pull somebody aside that has inspired you, or you're like, wow, that's this person, this like the Deanna Cooper, and I promise you, she'll spend 10 minutes with you,
Yeah.
and she'll give you information that she's never given on a call, right? Because a call is a little bit different. That's why they're so powerful. If you're really looking to move your business, whether personal production and or growing an organization to the next level, there's things you'll never get on a virtual call. You just won't get it, but you can get in a face-to-face. So that's my whole thought process. If I'm looking at people out there and they've got people sitting on the fence or you're sitting on the fence, why these meetings are so powerful. Matt?
Oh my gosh. Well, John, you asked if I was how I'm doing, and with that kind of a warm welcome, if I wasn't doing good, I'm doing good now. So thank you so much for letting me on and talking like I'm some kind of a rock star, but I'm just a producer and a builder, and I just have maybe been here long enough to see some results, and I just didn't quit. That's really that's those are my accolades. I'm an art student. That's a graduate and creative director career, and then found life insurance. So I'm no different than anybody else. I just don't quit. So I'm glad to be here. We found some things with Ethos, which we're going to talk about, but I want to just emphasize what Bill was saying. If you're newer here and you haven't been to an event, this is the best way I can describe how to understand what an event does for you. Did you ever see anybody go on a vacation and they send you pictures? They're like in Hawaii, they're on the beach and they send you pictures. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Right? No, no, no. You got to see like the sunset is amazing. Yeah, well, look at this picture. Oh, yeah, that's a nice picture. No, you have to see it. Like you got to come to Hawaii and sit on the beach and look at the sunset. And there's no picture that does it justice, right? You take a picture and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, but you got to see it, right? And that's what Zoom versus events are. When you go onto a Zoom, yeah, you can get a lot out of it, and our model is virtual. So we are grateful for the technology that lets us connect, but you got to see it. You got to get to the beach because that's where the energy is, and that's where decisions are made. So I'm a big promoter of events. So when I went to my first one about 8 months in, I missed the very first one. By the way, everybody, Jason, Eric told me you need to get there, and I was like 2 months in the field, had hardly. I don't think I'd sold a policy at that point. And I'm like, I'll get to the next one or whatever, and I regret it, but I did go to the next one, and I haven't missed one since. As soon as I went, I'm like, I get it now. I've got to get to these events. And whenever I can, of course, and even the regional ones, I try and get out to as much as possible. Is it a sacrifice? Yes. So was school. So was anything worthwhile. You just figure out how to make it happen. That's just because you can't go back in time and catch something that you missed. So hopefully that's enough on that topic. But I could talk about going to events all day long because they're game changers. I love the events.
There's something about being on the beach, sand in your toes, feeling
Yep.
the salt air, and smelling the palm trees and seeing the sunsets. So yes, there's something about that. But just the fact that you can't put a price tag on belief, and belief to me, self-image, but belief that you have what it takes is what people leave conferences, leave those, what Bill Martin just talked about, those important face-to-face meetings. You can't get them on virtual, but you get them more face-to-face, and there's no substitute for that. But Matt, I wanted to lock in very quickly on something that you just said, and I want you to take a few minutes to kind of, because I still want you to even more tell who Matt Wilson is. So how did you get started? Were you warm market of somebody? Did you answer an ad? But you just mentioned that you went through the first little bit, couple of months, and you didn't, golly, man, you weren't an Ignite winner, right? You didn't get off to one of these fast starts. But man, here you are, top producer in all of Equus, top producer in the industry. Like, how does that happen?
Well, hunger, drive, determination, refusal to quit. I don't have any special sales skills. So my background, I came from advertising. I got an art degree and went into advertising, became a creative director. So for years, I was writing radio commercials, producing, doing TV commercials. I did a number of Super Bowl spots. So it was a fun career. It wasn't your boring, cubicle job. I was blessed to have a good career, but financially and freedom, like it was a paycheck. Doesn't matter how fun it is, I was still a paycheck. I had somebody's thumb on my back, and I was only going to earn so much, even with my bonuses. I had an okay living, but we didn't have a lot of extra. And so I was just hungry for something different. And the last thing on my list would have been life insurance if you would have asked me. I was a creative guy, mind you. I was all about new ideas and creativity and all that. And if before I knew what life insurance was, if you'd have told me I was going to have a career in life insurance, I'd have laughed at you, because that sounded like the most boring thing ever to me. Until I found out what it was, until I found out what it would do for me. Because fortunately, I was open-minded enough. I did answer an ad, but the gentleman that posted the ad didn't get back to me very quickly, for what, it was several days. So, I was hungry and looking. So I started in my network, and I found a guy on Facebook. It was a good friend of mine that was in the life insurance space. I said, I just read this ad about life insurance. It looks like you're an agent. Tell me more about it and all that. He said, I'm not. He goes, it's a great career. I'm doing really well. He has a different business model. He said, I'm not recruiting, but I know somebody who is. He goes, let me put you in touch with Jason Patello. I'm like, all right. So he passed my name along. So I was a referral from a warm market because whoever posted an ad didn't respond fast enough. That was my story. And so he hooked me up with Jason. Jason got me on a call with Eric. I kept him on for about an hour asking a bunch of questions. I was like, what? If this is half as good as what you're telling me, this could be what I'm looking for. So I went in a little skeptical, but I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. So, because I was hungry. I wanted out of my job. I did. I wanted my freedom. So we got started, and I got my license in October 2017, I think it was, 2018. 2018. And it took me 8 days. I got through the study course real fast and got out in the field. Well, we were face-to-face back then. All of November and most of December and the rest of October, 0 apps. I didn't write a single app. I hope I'm not scaring anybody away, but I was out in the field running 2, 3, 4 appointments a week, part-time, evenings, weekends, wherever I could fit it in. But December, I finally wrote 2, and they both canceled. I got 2 chargebacks. So January, I wrote 2 more, and they stayed on the books. February is when it kicked in. So if you do the math, that's what, 4 months in? Is when I started going, okay, I think I'm starting to finally get this. February, March, April, May, June, 5 months in a row, I was consistently putting in about 10, 12 grand APV a month submitted, getting $4,000 or so of income. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty good side hustle now. Profitable. I'm in motion. I like it. July was my first full-time month. So June, I put in my notice, left my job. July went full-time. And I was running scared, like they say. Submitted or paid $28,000 that month. Made almost 4 times my income at my job in July. And I was like, okay, even if this continues to be half as good, I'm all right. That was my belief month. That was when I realized I can make this work. Like I just got to keep doing what I'm doing. So then there was no stopping at that point. Now, ups and downs, yeah. Struggles, absolutely. Challenges, did I still want to quit after that? Absolutely. A lot. If you're feeling that, it's right there, right? It's just part of the deal. Like I still have bad weeks. But you know what? You just know that even my worst week here, I'm still not under somebody's thumb. I still have my freedom. I still don't have a boss. I still have control over my income, my destiny. And that's what I don't know how you put a price on that. So am I trading some occasional bad weeks for that? All day long. All day long, right? So anyways, here I am today, 7 years later, still building, growing, still producing. And then the industry's evolved a lot, though, John, Bill. You've seen back in the day, we were running heavy mortgage protection leads. The mortgage market was real good, and things have shifted. You've got virtual now. COVID changed everything for us 4 or 5 years ago. The mortgage leads have changed, and you've got Ethos Leads now, an online experience, virtual social media. So there's so much change, but we just have to evolve with it. And so we've embraced a different type of lead that we really like over the Valdez team, and you've heard people talking about it. So we're still doing mortgage protection. We haven't given that up, but we supplement Ethos because they're real good. And there's some agents that have just embraced Ethos 100%. And I'm kind of in the middle, but I do a lot more Ethos now than I do with mortgage protection anymore. But I do both. I still have a standing A lead order and things like that. But we find a pretty good amount of success over on the Ethos side. So we wouldn't talk about that. But what other questions? Any other questions before we jump in?
Bill, do you have anything? I've got a comment.
Yeah.
Freedom always drives entrepreneurs. Guys, you put people in, we don't grow on people, we grow on right people, but put people in. I'm telling you what, the process doesn't matter how much somebody struggles. As a matter of fact, typically the more people struggle, it identifies them. Quitters don't quit. Quitters always quit, but entrepreneurs, people that don't quit, they just never quit no matter what they go through. And as a matter of fact, I've heard Barry Clarkson say this. Sometimes I even pray for people to experience adversity early because it really reveals people. But you said something there and about how Jason Patello hired you. And for distribution builders out there, I hope you heard that. What was the process? Somebody who we don't even know ran an ad. You've got a guy like Matt Wilson that sees the dadgum ad, looks through his Facebook, finds a guy in the life insurance industry. I'm not hiring, but I know somebody who is. You know what? I'll have to ask Jason Patello this, but I'll be willing to bet my farm that Jason Patello probably went through a dry spell where it didn't seem like he could recruit anybody. But now all of a sudden God says, hey, here you go, buddy. Here you go. And you let me tell you something. You don't even have an understanding of what you would do to hire somebody like Matt Wilson. So Bill,
and on that note, what I was going to say and what comes to mind is this. You talk about doing the hard things, right? We're looking for people that are trying to sharpen their sword in a sense, right? They're trying to get better. Like Matt didn't quit after 4 months, where many people would have quit in 2 weeks, right? And he didn't quit. He just kept getting through it and getting through it. I liken it to this. Do you know that when you go in the military and you want to get into the elite, like the Rangers, or you want to get into the Navy SEALs, into one of those organizations, that's a second level. And what they try to do when you get in and try to apply for a Navy SEAL or the Rangers in the Army is they trying to get you to quit. That's their goal. Trying to get you to quit. We want to beat you up so bad that you say no mas and you quit. That's perfect, because then you're not what we're looking for. I liken it to this, and this is doing the hard things, like doing a meeting or going to Phoenix or whatever it is, or sticking it out. John, as a golfer, you can relate to this. There's a course I play around here that I hate, but I play it Because if I can get a decent score on that course, the other courses are like if I'm off the fairway on this particular course a little bit, I'm dead,
Yeah.
right? Where I get to this other course that I play all the time, off the fairway a little bit, I'm still alive. And it just fine tunes your game. So I always play it like once a month just to see where I'm at. And it's an abusive thing though. I abuse myself. But it fine tunes everything about your game. So the
Yeah.
same thing with what Matt was doing. He went back into the fray and got beat up some more, right? And he just got better because of it. And that's what I think what happens to a lot of people, John, is people are looking for escape routes for easy. I
Yeah.
was never looking for that. I've always taught my kids the same thing. Take the hard road.
Yeah.
Find the hard road. It just fine tunes who you are as a human being and your skill level.
Love it. Love
I
it.
agree.
Hey, Matt, let's dive into all things Ethos. What's your average monthly income, and what does your weekly / daily process? In other words, big picture, what's my result, and how are you producing that result?
Okay, so Ethos. So my book of business right now, I'm going back doing a lot of reviews. Ethos is probably my second, well, probably my first source of my APV clients and reviews, writing policies and stuff. Because I have a book of business now, I'm going back and doing that. That's the second, and then mortgage protection is the third. So if I were to look at my last like week or so, well, this week I've got two that I'm writing tonight. Ethos, those are Ethos. So it's going to be just this last week is about, well, if I write those two tonight, I have 5,400. If I write the two tonight, it's going to be over 10,000 APV this week from Ethos. Um, Now that's a higher week than average last week. I'd say at least I'm writing a couple of apps, one or two apps a week. But some weeks are more than others because I'll get busy with client reviews or team building. I get a lot of requests from agents in the home, so it's a little bit of a give and take. But those that are really diving in, you see Mark Munson, you see Doug Walls, you see a lot of people on Eric Valdez's team. Most of those guys are running 100% Ethos. John Campbell's one of my guys, rock star on the phone with Ethos. So the numbers are there. The biggest challenge with Ethos is getting them to answer, honestly. The difference to what I found is mortgage protection. Some of these lead vendors are pulling up older mortgages because there's not a lot of new homes being sold. So there's people that have been bombarded in the past, and then you get a new A lead or even a secondary lead, and you're getting a lot of resistance. Oh, take me off your list. Oh, I got a lot of people calling. We've had that from day one. There's no different. That's not a deterrent, but you're going to notice a difference when you call Ethos. The rejection is very rarely negative. It's usually polite. Usually, I got something. Thank you for calling. Thank you for checking on me. I'm good though. Appreciate it. And then we can ask, if you want to share, if you want to review their coverage and see if we can save them money. Here's a guy last week. I'm looking at my client list. He said yes to that question, and he was paying 61. I said, let's compare your rates. He's paying 61 a month. He got approved and didn't get living benefits. And I said, well, I can get you. And I ran it a Meritas, $500,000, same price, same amount, same length, $57, and it's got a heck of a living benefits package. And he's like, well, what's that? So I went into living benefits. He's like, oh, even if it comes back a little bit higher, he goes, I'd rather have living benefits than not. So a lot of people don't realize what they have and what they don't have. So especially on Ethos, if you can just talk to them about a price comparison, if they just got something, I'll say that's awesome. Why don't we pay, or just compare your price? It'll take like 5 minutes since you already have approval. It'll take about 5 minutes, and I can tell you if you're overpaying or not.
Mm.
And so sometimes you can get people to say yes to that. People like this client let me do that just a few days ago. So that happens as well. But Ethos are unlike just like any other lead. A lead is an opportunity to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you buy, a bunch of Ethos leads, you're going to have a bunch of no's. You're going to have a bunch of people that don't show up. You're going to have a bunch of people that say yes and do no. There's no magic in these other than your ability to work them. That's the magic. And that's the thing that people don't realize. a lot of times is, shiny object syndrome, SOS. You're wanting some magic bullet, and yes, some things are better than others, but really at the end of the day, it's your commitment to the process that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And with Ethos, the process is no different than mortgage protection or any other lead. You just make dialing part of your regular routine. The good, the bad, the ugly, the rejection. It's just the activity is king. So you have to just get into that routine of calling. And sometimes we have a dial session where you can book 4 or 5 appointments in an hour. That's awesome. I wish they were all that way. But sometimes I spend an hour or two and I book 2 appointments. I don't know. But again, with Ethos, the hardest part is getting an answer, because usually when they answer, they're a yes or a no. If they're a no, it's usually nice, usually professional. And if they're a yes, then we put them on the calendar and, then remind them and try and get them to show up. So we can get into some more specifics, but I don't want to get too far off track if you have other questions. Do you want to ask anything so far?
I have something I wanted to add to the psychology of it is what always intrigues me.
Okay.
And so, and here's what I think people need to understand. When you do a mortgage lead or something like that, that was a solicitation forcefully out to somebody
Yeah.
that responded to it. So they may have not been thinking about it, but this letter comes in and says, hey, you might want to protect your loan in case you die to protect your family. Oh, maybe I'm interested. Where Ethos, these are people that are directly looking for life insurance. They're the ones that initiated. There's an ad that went out or whatever, but they're the ones that got online or made a phone call and initiated the process specifically for life insurance. Somebody that's doing mortgage protection, in their mind, it's a death benefit, whatever, or it's just going to pay off the house in their mind. They don't connect it necessarily with life insurance. So there's the reason that you have less of a rub or friction with that lead. And they're a lot less expensive because these are incompletes.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit to what these leads are generated? These are not people,
Yeah.
some of them may have filled out. There's 2 different levels, which again, Matt's going to be one of my guests with those other people he mentioned. We're going to be doing a panel on that in Phoenix, which I'm looking forward to get a little bit deeper dive into that. But talk about that whole what that lead actually is and how it was created.
Yeah. So the ones that we're working are people that, they see an ad online, social media usually. Ethos does a lot of advertising. I can't imagine what their ad budget is, but it's insane. And they get a lot of people that start an application. Now, Ethos is a tech platform. They're not a carrier. Hopefully everybody knows that. They underwrite with Ameritas, with TrueStage, and Banner, I think, is the third one. I'm not sure, but they're just a tech platform. So somebody gets in, and it's all non-medical, so a very stringent, strict underwriting guides or criteria. Something's off, even their financial. So they'll do a credit check with Ethos. A lot of people don't realize, and they can get a table rated for being healthy but having bad credit or whatever. There's a lot of things. So if the stars align, Ethos is awesome. And yes, you can get 2 million non-medical instant approval, but everybody else, 95% of the rest of the population, they're going to get a high offer. So most people get in, start an application, they'll see the offer and they'll be like, no way. And they close out. So it creates a lead. So what happens the first couple of weeks, an Ethos rep does try to call them back. They've probably got more than they can handle, because I rarely ever hear people talk about how they've gotten a lot of calls from an Ethos rep, but I know that it happens. So Ethos tries to close it themselves. After a period of time, I don't know if it's 2 weeks or a month, but it seems like it's about a month old when I get these leads. Then they turn it into a lead and they sell it. And then they're done. They wash their hands of it. When we buy it, it's off the market. It's not resold. It doesn't go back in. So we're the only ones that buy the lead, and we're the only ones other than Ethos that call that lead. Unless they go to other, besides Ethos, if they're getting on other lead platforms, they're going to hear from other people. So they're not getting bombarded with tons and tons of phone calls, usually. So we call them, and it's more of a customer service call, Bill. We're not there to try and talk them into something. They're already looking. They got halfway through an application. They didn't just click on an ad and say, "Oh, this is life insurance." "Oh, no, I'm not interested." And then I got to call them and try and sell life insurance. It's not that. They started an application. They put in their name, beneficiary. In a lot of cases, they put in their social. They put in their birth date. Like, this is high intent. They were trying to get something, right? And they just didn't like the price. Usually that's the case. So when I call them, I put on my customer service hat. Okay, so I'm reaching out. Looks like you didn't get a very good offer from Ethos. I like to throw Ethos under the bus. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't like to write business with Ethos, but I love
Amen.
their leads. So I'll say I work with them. I'm a rep with Ethos. A lot of times they are too high, and I can find coverage somewhere else. I'm here to see if I can help you. I can go through my script, but it's like a customer service. I kind of think of myself as a concierge because they didn't get what they needed electronically. So now someone's going to come in and handhold them through for a better rate and a whole experience, a service to help guide them through, answer questions. So think customer service, even though you're making a sale. And then a lot of times they're responsive to that. Yeah, that'd be great. I could have somebody kind of walk me through this and find better rates. So that's the approach that we take. It's a very, very different approach than when I'm calling a mortgage protection lead. But questions from there?
Well, I'll just say this. So when we're talking about ethos, you look at, okay, so let's take something near and dear to all of our hearts. Okay. Profitability for every single individual agent. Okay. So profitability. Okay. When you think profitability, you're thinking investment versus issue paid.
Yeah.
What's my marketing investment? What's my investment into gaining a client versus what's my issue paid? That's number one. Number two is annual premium amount. Bill, if you remember, when I restarted my career and came to Equus, I came to Equus from the final expense world. I remember the average application that I would write in final expense was about $40 a month. And I was in houses. You've never lived until you've been in a house with cat pee and tobacco smoke at 7:30 in the morning. Okay. You haven't lived. I promise you. There's not a potpourri made that there needs to be. Like final expense potpourri smells like cat pee, urine, and tobacco. Okay. But when I was talking to Rob Jones, Bill, and he was telling me about his mortgage protection average sale of $85 a month. Like I went, oh my gosh, like he's not doing any more work than I'm doing. As a matter of fact, it seemed like he was working less. And so it really created, like when I went from struggling financially and borrowing money out of my son's checking account to actually making $5,000 a week, guys, that process was simple. It was simply me going from writing final expense and an average $40 a month policy to mortgage protection, $85 a month policy. So I want you to think about this. Chris Tinsman and I were talking recently, and Chris was like, John, do you understand what my average Ethos application is? And it was like so much higher than the typical mortgage protection. We're still dealing with $85 a month premiums, but with Ethos, it's higher. Maybe speak to that, Matt.
Yeah. So mine is 125 per month, 1,500 APV average. I just was doing it just since January. I've submitted 46,000 APV, most of it paid, overwhelming majority, and then average premium case is 1,500 APV. So every time I buy, and I track my numbers, and I've been testing them in increments of 15, because every time I buy 15 Ethos leads, I write at least one application, sometimes two or three, but I count on one. So 15 to 1. So if they're 7, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the if there's 7, and their Ethos have a few different price points, times 8, so 120. So if I'm spending, a little bit over $100 for a batch of 15, and I write one, and it's a $1,500 case, and I'm making $800-900, in exchange for 120, 150. What's that ROI? 8 times?
That's pretty
9
good.
times? Okay. It's not very common that you get ROI like that. Sometimes you can get 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. In mortgage protection, in my, back when we were running A leads, I was spending, if you talk about ROI, a higher amount, a smaller premium, but we had a higher close ratio. So if I buy 10, I'd sit on 6 and write 3. That was kind of the model, 10, 6, 3. Well, that was the heyday of mortgage protection. Numbers have changed since then, but for 10, I was spending $500 because they were $50 leads back then. Yes, all these have changed right now, but back then I was spending $50 for an A lead. So I'd spend $500 and I'd write 3 apps, average case, what, 800 to, let's call it 1,000. We'll round it up. That's 3 grand, 1,500. So that's a 3 to 1. So I'm spending $500 to make 1,500 to 2,000. Here I'm spending 120 to make $800 or $900. So the difference is volume. I'm buying more leads because they're super inexpensive. They're $8, $9, whatever they are on ILC is they're higher volume. So they work like an A1 lead. Remember A1 leads? They went from 50 down to I think 11. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they were 30 days old. And so they discount them huge. It's a nice sweet spot because they're just a little old, but they're a lot discounted. So as long as you're not afraid of making phone calls, and this is why we emphasize, you got to be consistent. Make calls an hour a day, 2 hours a day. Like make that part of that's what I do every day. The good, the bad, dial session. If I book nothing, if I book 6, doesn't matter. I'm just going to commit to dialing every day because Ethos, you got to work in a little bit higher volume. And you're going to get, more people saying, no, I already got something. Thank you for calling. Okay, that's all right. I just need one. I bought 15. I just need one. That's it. And so you're not my one. It's going to be the next one or the next one, right? So you're just going down the line looking for that one yes or 2 yeses. But that's really it. It's just working the numbers, committing to the process, committing to the activity, and making that regular outreach a part of your daily activity. But those ratios, I think Chris Tinsman's got even better numbers than I do for some reason. But our ratios across the board, if you look, everybody working Ethos Leads, they are higher premium values and higher cases than mortgage protection. I notice there's a lot of business owners. I notice there's a lot of 40 to 60-year-olds looking for $1 million policy. They want that big one. So it does pose some new challenges when you're working Ethos Leads. They're wanting larger cases in most cases. They're not looking for $75,000 to pay off 2 years worth of the mortgage payments. They're looking for income replacement. They're looking for heritage. I want my kids to be well off if I pass away. So when I work an Ethos appointment, I want to drill down and find out exactly what they're looking for. Some people are looking for whole life. They want cash value. Some people are looking for IULs. Some people are looking for mortgage protection. Yeah. So you're going to get any kind of answer, and you have to be ready for that. So when you start an appointment, you're not, assuming that it's to protect a mortgage. You're going to find out what it is, and then you sink your teeth into that and try and solve the problem.
I want to say something, and maybe this is more directed at Bill Martin. Bill, you and I go back a long time, 2007. And Matt, as I say this, and I want Bill to comment, then I want to come back to you, and I really want to dive into scripts. Maybe you even mentioned about maybe making a few live dials for us. But Bill Martin, man, let's think, man, this opportunity that we're in right now today, July 3rd, 2025, like I look back over the course of my career, and I think about like the height of opportunities and the height of growth, right? I mean, there's times that with massive growth opportunity versus times of massive sustainability, right? But we're quite possibly in my career, quite possibly this is the greatest growth period I may ever see. Like I think about, okay, we've got a business that's proven to be pandemic proof, right? Right, Bill Martin? Like we're pandemic proof. Like we exploded. Not only were we counted worthy, not only were we counted essential by the government, we were allowed to work. But man, we exploded. Life insurance explodes in times of uncertainty. What are we in right now? You look at overseas, you look at Iran, Israel, you look at, it's like the times of uncertainty ramping up. Like, could this be the greatest growth time? Now we've got Ethos Leads So we've got higher premiums, we got lower cost leads that quite possibly could have the same close ratios as mortgage protection, okay? But the annualized premium is so much higher. Matt just said it, from 85 a month to 125 a month. Like, what would that do for somebody's profitability? And Bill, I'm going to tell you, so this is me, dude. So when I restarted my career at 48 years of age, and I came to Equus, my crusade was the equity bonus. Nobody in the industry was actually awarding distribution builders with a true bonus that reflected the bottom line number of IMOs. You have these narcissistic IMO leaders out there that they want you to, like goo over their cars and over their airplanes and over their lifestyle, but they weren't willing to share that with agents. And y'all changed that. Equus changed that. And so what did I do? I started talking to everybody I knew in the industry about, hey, do you know this? See, this is the same thing that we have right now. Our crusade is simply a lead type that quite possibly could, like, I don't know if I've ever seen a lead that costs this little, Bill, with this high close ratio. Yes, it's going to be frustrating getting them on the phone. They've not filled out any requests for a call, okay? But these are life insurance. These are people that went to a website and actually started a life insurance application. And maybe I'm too excited here, Bill, so talk me down a little bit if you have to, but it's the greatest growth opportunity we have. And if you're wanting true freedom, if you're wanting passive income, I'm just going to tell you, and I'm not saying it for dramatic effect, but you quite possibly 20, 25, 30 years could go by and you could be at the end of your career and you never, ever experience a time frame like we are in today, July 3rd, 2025.
John, here's the thing. I look back over the years that I got started in the business in 1982, and it grabbed me because it was such a viable business, profitable, etc. It was just a matter of finding people to sit down with. So I spent many years cold calling and looking the whole time for a good lead source, right? A good way to get in front of people without having to tackle them at dinner parties. People would turn away from me. I was in that mode of my life where, hey, here comes Bill again, trying to sell me some life insurance. I was training for how do I find people? And when I first discovered the mortgage lead business, it literally blew me away. Well, it still boils down to this when we start talking about ethos or any other type of lead. You're looking for people that are raising their hand. You can talk to me. You're allowed to talk to me about what you have, and I'm willing to listen. What's interesting about these is, again, these people literally reached out. They saw an ad or whatever, but they reached out. It's like if I'm looking for a car, I'm going to reach out and start looking for a car. I'm open game. Sell me something. Give me a reason to buy that car from you, right? And I think when you look at that in that perspective, and again, going back to the mortgage leads guys are always going to be there. We all know and been through cycles that the mortgage lead business will come back. When? Who knows? Could be 6 months from now, right? But it will come back. And when it comes back, it'll just flood everything else that we have going on. But solidifying it with these are innovators. These are people who are going out there and all they're doing is making sure their business is intact. That I have lead sources. See, Matt's already incorporated, and a lot of people have their reviews. What you're doing is generating a pile of clients that in 2-3 years from now, things can go up and down cyclical to Matt again, but what's he got? A new bevy of clients that he can go back and talk to. Who knows what kind of doors he can open with annuities with these people that are looking for higher dollar things or debt-free for life or whatever. Who knows? We don't even know yet. He establishes a client, right? So that's what the lead sources do. And John's exactly right. You understand, these leads are through integrity. We've got a lead source that the Ethos leads are purchased through integrity through the lead center. That's where we get them. We're not going directly to Ethos to get these. We've got an exclusive deal through Integrity, get them into us. Okay. And so that there's thousands of them in there. There's thousands created every couple days or whatever it is. I don't know how many come in there, but think about all those people that just go cycle through and cycle through and cycle through, and it just continues to keep that pile of leads there. I couldn't agree with you more that I believe that the people that understand the power of having a lead source, regardless of what kind, having a lead source and the availability there and the commitment by Integrity to have that available to you, because that's their commitment. There might be something new that comes along in 2 years from now that'll be just as powerful. It's the key is that we are a lead driven organization, always have been, always will be, and our commitment will be that. And with that, I've got another call I got on. So I'm going to hard stop here, John.
Well, hey, one question, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so you look at Crusade.
Yeah.
You look at these IMOs out there, they created fortunes because they moved in a crusade. Mortgage, but Leads itself has been the crusade.
Yes.
Leads itself has changed. So mortgage protection leads has been primarily what's created the wealth of these IMO owners.
Yep.
But think about this. Think about this now, okay? In 2016, 17, 18, 19, when I made a fortune, okay, I made a fortune from mortgage protection leads. Look at where was the mortgage market in 2017 through 19? Look at it, guys. I mean, it's massive. But here's the thing. I spent $50 for an A lead. Bill, go back to 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
When that company that we met was doing 3,000 applications. What was the cost of an A lead back then?
$19.
$19. So, guys, that proves my point. That Ethos gives us, it gives you, if you're listening to my voice, maybe this is a wake-up call for you. You now have one of the greatest crusade opportunities for growth.
Yep. Good point.
Oh my gosh, Bill. Okay. Matt Wilson. Okay.
I gotta roll.
Bill's got a hard stop. Thank you, Bill. Love you. See you in Phoenix. Matt Wilson. Okay, so let's talk. You may want to do some live dials, but I do want you to share what's your typical phone script. What are the typical objections that you get? You know, let's just kind of like, okay, what's probably the typical objections that you get, people are going to get, and how do you attempt to overcome them, knowing that buyers buy, non-buyers don't buy? You know, so many times when we do handling objections, you know, we make it look to new people like, oh, we sell everybody. We don't, right? But can you talk a little bit about that and how you attempt to overcome objections and, you know, what works and what doesn't?
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you know, I've got 7 minutes. I have a hard stop at 8. I got another call to be on. So if we want to do a part 2, I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome.
I don't know that I'll get to do some live dial. We do live dialing every day, and we can invite you guys in if you want. But to go over my script, number one, I call it it's a courtesy call. That's what we call it. This is a courtesy call that in regards to. So here's what I would say if I were calling you and you've just answered the phone. I'd say, hey John, my name is Matthew Wilson. My name's not going to ring a bell. This is just a quick courtesy call. Because it looks like, I don't know if you remember, it was probably a month or so ago, you were online and had started an application for some life insurance. Does that does that ring a bell to you? And that's the first time I pause. I'll let them say yes or no. Usually, almost always, 100% of the time, it's yes. And I say, yeah, great, no problem. And the reason why they have me call, notice I haven't said the word ethos yet.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. The reason why they have me call, it does look like you were, and then I'll kind of say, looks like you were on Ethos. If they can't remember, it looks like an Ethos, looks like you were on a site called Ethos. So I'm kind of speaking to it as if I'm not very familiar with it, but I'm just looking on a form somewhere. Looks like you were on a site named Ethos. Does that ring a bell? Okay, perfect. Well, most people don't complete the application because they didn't like the offer that they got from Ethos. Was that the case for you? And they'll usually say yes, because that's almost always the reason. When they get a really good rate, they usually enroll. Or if they weren't ready, they'll tell me that. So we pause, we talk a little bit about that, and then I'll say, well, the reason why they have me reach out to you as a service is because of that. Exactly. I hear that a lot. A lot of times Ethos does have high rates, but fortunately, I'm a broker. I work with a lot of carriers. And so my role here is to walk you through the process and find some better rates. When do you have 10 minutes for me to give you a call back and do an intake and see if I can help you? That's really about my script right there. So, number one, they're feeling like they're getting some special attention.
Mhm.
That's where I want what I want them to feel like. Number two, they're feeling like it's part of the process. So they have me reach out is kind of the phraseology that I use. They have me reach out to, I don't like to say they passed your information on to me. We did that a few times and people say, who's passing on? Wait, I told them not to. That, is there a violation of my rights and blah, blah, blah. You know how people get real finicky. They have me reach out to you just as a service. And if people get a little squirmish, I'll say, you're not on any call list. I'm just reaching out personally. I'm not a robot. I'm just here to see if I can help you out. And people kind of get a chuckle out of that robot comment, by the way, because there's so much of that. I'm not AI and I'm not a robot. I'm just here to walk you through it because it can get a little complicated and sometimes the rates get a little high. And almost always I can find better rates for people. So if you've got 10 minutes and if they're still a little, kind of not committed, then I'll just press the pause button. I'll say, listen, Mr. Smith, just let me know, how important is it for you to get coverage right now for your family? I know it was important about a month ago when you started an application. Is that still the case today? And I'll just let him tell me if it's important. If he's willing to say it's not that important, you don't have a buyer. Don't spend your time with them. Thank you. Reach back out when this is more of a priority and you're going to call the next lead. But if he says, yeah, it's still important, well, I can't promise you anything. I always do my best, but there are options out there that you didn't get when you did your Ethos application. And I'm just here to expose those to you and see what that looks like. So there's no commitment. I want them to feel comfortable. We're not hard selling. I'm not going to make you do something that you don't need. I'm just here to help you find better options than you found. So that's really the gist of it. And most of the times people, their guard is down. If you can get them on the phone and they haven't bought yet, usually they'll book an appointment. Those are the hardest things is getting them to answer and then getting them to, finding the ones that are still looking. So take them through those hoops.
So we do have a question from
Yeah.
Carrie. So when you do find the person that's bought that maybe say, okay, if you can look at maybe better rate or whatever, explain reviewing their policy and how you do it.
Yeah, so I first congratulate them. That's the most important thing. Like, awesome. I'm so glad you got that. That's great. You're in a position, actually in a win-win position right now. Because here's what we can do. I have access to a lot of other carriers, and if I can find you a better rate for the same or even better coverage, I can save you some money. If I find that I can't, you've already got the best deal. Either way, we're going to find out. So if you can give me like 5 minutes on the phone, and I won't charge you for this, there's no cost for my service. I'll shop around, see if I can put you in a better position. If I can't, I'll tell you that.
Another
Pretty
question,
simple.
Casey Gregory, how far out are you booking your Ethos appointments? What's your show rate? And how many do you write typically
Okay.
on the first call?
Great questions. I like to book same or next day if I can, just like mortgage protection. The sooner the better. I do try and run on the spot appointments. You got to be ready for that. Ethos, the hardest part is pinning them down. They're on the go, they're business owners a lot of times. So getting them to commit is challenging. So when I do book, I'm firming it up extra. And even then you're still going to have a high no-show rate. I'd probably say half of them don't show up. And we're working on that. We're trying to find ways to firm it up even more or solidify that appointment. But there is a lot of back and forth and trying to reschedule because they mean well. They're just on the go. And then, oops, I can't take it after all. And then you have to call them back. So you do the best you can. You overbook, book more than you think you can handle to compensate for the show rate. But the ones that show up and the ones that book, they're buyers. And so that's the good news is once you sift through, you're going to have buyers. So once you get them on, treat it like it's the last time you'll ever talk to them because it probably is. I like to sift through at the beginning of the appointment, Say, now listen, I talk to a lot of people and I know you're on the go, and I try and be as efficient and respect everybody's time. And I'm sure you probably don't want to go through this process multiple times. So let me just ask you up front, are you looking for coverage to try and protect your family, or are you just looking for quotes today? What are you looking for? And they'll tell me, oh, I'm just looking for quotes. Okay, well, and I'll just, here's my Ethos link. You can get quotes all day long. I'll be honest with you. Google will give you quotes. What I'm here for is to help get you coverage. So is that important to you, or do you just want numbers? Because there's a lot of people that just want numbers. And so you want to weed those out because they're not buyers. They're not going to be ready to buy. Some people are doing early research. I talk to people that are planning on getting a coverage in October, and they just want to see about what they're going to pay. Well, they don't need me for that. They can Google search that. So I want to weed that out at the beginning of my appointment. I have that quotes or coverage conversation. And then and that'll weed out a lot of the objections too, because if they're looking for coverage, then I can zero in. Okay, so if we can find, what is your goal? 500,000. Okay, if we can find this and it meets your budget, can I assume then that we're going to at least put an application together to see if we can get you approved? Yes or no? So I want to pre-qualify before I even get into the appointment. And if everything checks out, awesome. I pretty much usually have a sale. I just need to go through my motions at that point. So you do want to hold them to a higher standard of kind of accountability because they're on the go. They're business owners. They're real hard to pin down. And when you do get them, treat it as if it's probably the last time you'll talk to them. And you got one shot, and let's get this done. Now, the ones that are serious, they will do 2 or 3 appointments sometimes. Yeah, let me, I got to bounce off my business partner or some unforeseen thing that, okay, you got to respect it. So it is a lot of give and take. You got to work with the process, but in the end, if you just work the numbers, you'll have success with them.
Love it. And you've got a hard stop, so I want to appreciate that. I would love to set up a round 2. Maybe even for next Thursday or the week after. You let me know what works for you, because there's so much more that I want to go through. Matt Wilson, you're a wealth of knowledge, and
thank you.
We're even looking at possibly doing a little lock-in on Friday afternoon after Phoenix, maybe for 2-3 hours, having a jam session. And so who knows, man? Maybe we even pull you into one of those and actually watch you make some live dials.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, you're all coming to my neck of the woods, so it's going to be awesome. I hope to see you all there too, by the way. It's going to be an awesome event. So thank you for letting me on. Yeah, happy to come back and finish. I know there were some questions we couldn't get to, and if you want, I can do some live dials next time or whatever. So yeah, let me know.
Let's plan on it. And again, you let me know if next Thursday works, same time.
It does. Because it's nice and early out here, so I'm not booking anything. So next Thursday's fine.
Well, then we will plan on it next Thursday. Appreciate you big time, Matt Wilson. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. All right. See you all. Take care.
God bless, Cornerstone.
Thanks.